All right. Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. We have a very, very special guest, someone that I love very much as part of the things that I've done in the past and in real estate software. There is none other than Kendyl Young with us that I think so highly of, and I think you guys will learn once you hear some of the things that she has to share. Why I love just being able to discuss things with her. So, first off, just some quick introductions for those that don't know me. My name is Mark Stepp. I am one of the co-founders here at Workflow Secrets. With me on the screen, Cody, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hey everybody. My name's Cody Stepp. I'm the other co-founder over here at Workflow Secrets, the architect of SAM, and we've been working to bring real estate agents a software tool, agents and teams that helps build and create a stronger business.
Absolutely. So, for those that don't know Kendyl, I want to give you a little bit of time just to kind of give a little bit of your background, who you are, what you've done in real estate, how long you've been in. Just give us some details that maybe people that don't necessarily know you might find intriguing.
If you're listening, if you're on this podcast or you're listening after the fact, you are someone who's interested in growing your business. Maybe you're a brand new agent and you have no flipping idea how to make your first sale. Or maybe you are someone who is looking to grow and expand your business, or you're my favorite, someone who has had a considerable amount of success, but the wheels are falling off the bus. You aren't sleeping, you don't have a life, and your kids are saying, where are you? I don't see you anymore, right? You're the people that have my heart because that's where I was. A little bit of background. I started doing real estate at the dawn of time. No, that's not kidding. um, I've been doing real estate for nearly 40 years. That's four with a four. And on top of that, I am a second generation real estate agent who observed my mother getting her business off the ground in the early 70s. And then I moved away to Northern California, hated corporate life. I'm not good employee material. Neither are most of you, I would guess. I'm not good employee material. Decided, hey, mom was a real estate agent. Maybe I should give it a whirl. And I started my business far away from her on the other end of the state in Northern California. So I had to figure it out all on my own, just like most of you. And then I moved down to California, to Los Angeles, where my mother was, where people patted me on the head and say, aren't you cute? You're going to learn at the feet of your mother. And I'm like, dude, I sold 30 homes last year. How many did you sell? That's beside the point. When I started, fax machines were not yet a thing. We did our MLS in books and on a thermal paper TTY terminal that had the ripping rate of 300 baud. Like that was a big deal.
That was a big
Um,
deal, and then it went to 1200. But
yeah, the 300 baud was like, I did the dial up.
Bong.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of where I started, and I learned how to do business by talking to people who didn't necessarily know me because I didn't know anybody in the Bay Area actually. So talking to people that didn't know me, establishing credibility, developing relationships, and earning their trust so that I could help them buy and sell homes, mostly buy in the beginning, like most of us, and then eventually earning my right to be a listing agent. So I'm super old school. I don't use AI. I'm allergic to lead generation. I don't like talking to strangers. Uh, I have the memory of a desert mouse, and I suck at birthday cards. So those are all my qualifications. On the other hand, I've sold like, I don't know, maybe I haven't counted them past 2000, but I'm
You
guessing like,
told
I
a
don't know,
lot.
2,600 homes maybe. And none of them REO, none of them relocation, none of them corporate. That is 2,500 or however many, one family at a time. Yeah.
Building those relationships one family at a time. And that was one of the things that was impressive to me. It was just, I know a lot of agents, and I've helped a lot of agents set up systems and do different things. And um, it it amazes me at some of the agents even stay in business. I mean, they how in the world can they sell one house and do anything? And then there's other agents that sell hundreds or thousands of homes, and they're just at wit's end because they don't have the systems in place to do what they really need to do, and they've got staff out the ear. But so um you've also spoke on stages and stuff.
Lots.
Tell me some of the people that you've shared information with.
Well, my speaking career started with a verbal showdown with Brad Inman, where we were exchanging all kinds of stuff via text. And then he said, "Meet me on main stage." And I said, "Fine." And he said, "Fine." And that's how Inman started for me. Uh, Arguing with Brad, which arguably still happens today. Um, so I did a lot of stuff on the Inman stage that led to a lot of stuff for the California Association of Realtors, a few associations within California, um, Genuine Hustle, which is a very small scale. I've spoken to the entrepreneur class at USC. I've actually done a lecture on social media marketing at UCLA. Uh, I've
Lots and
spoken for
lots
my
of.
city. I don't know, stuff.
Yeah,
I
well,
like
the reason
talking.
why I asked that is just like, so many times you get somebody on and you're interviewing them or you're talking to them and they don't have any qualifications whatsoever. And I just, I want people to understand that you've been around, you've helped a lot of
See
people.
the gray hair? See the gray hair?
Yeah,
I've
well,
got
I've
gray
got
hair.
that
Very
too.
good. Yeah.
Um, we didn't have that whenever you and I we went
No.
for an Inman thing in New York.
Yeah. Yeah. I was trying to be a booth babe.
Yeah, well, that we didn't have gray hairs back then.
No, we didn't.
But so everyone, just for context, I have known Kendyl for a lot of years now. Kendyl, like I said, is just high in my book of agents that if you want to learn something from somebody, Kendall's definitely one that I would want to learn from. What was so impressive was one night, and it was late, but I guess it was late because I'm in Missouri, she's in California, and it was an appropriate time for her. But we had set up a meeting. She goes, Mark, I got to show you this. I've got to show you what I've put together. And she had
Oh,
taken,
that day.
yeah, she had
Like,
taken at the time the software that we had designed and stuff. She was just sharing all these things that she was doing with the software, and it's stuff that I had put into, really thinking about how do you build workflows and how do you build automation, and I'd put together this book of how-to stuff. And evidently she just went through and picked it apart one thing at a time, figuring out how it worked. And I was just so impressed with what she had built, taking what I had wanted people to build, and she actually did it. So, and I should have gotten the little diagram thing that you had showed about all the different things for the listing.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Flow chart. It was a flow chart.
Yeah, the whole process of flowing out what you do as part of your business and making sure that everything is done properly, things aren't left hanging, and that you just don't let things fall through the cracks. And that was one terminology that you have used repeatedly, is I don't like things falling through the cracks. So the whole idea of workflows and stuff was what I have concentrated on for myself. I've been doing this for 3 decades, not quite as long as you, but definitely it is something that I wanted to be able to have real estate agents, no matter whether they're brand new or they're seasoned, be able to take automations and do things. So long story short, now Cody and I are working on a brand new CRM. We have lots of new capabilities, lots of new features. And what I want to do in today's session here is just kind of look back at some of the things that you might consider doing if you were to set up. Now, I know you're no longer in real estate.
Well, not really true. I'm no longer doing hand-to-hand combat.
Okay, so fair enough. But the knowledge, the vast knowledge that you have is something that I want to make sure that is presented here. And thinking about some different scenarios, I just want to kind of pick your brain. How would you do this? How would you do that? And then what we're going to do later in a session, we're really not going to get into any kind of technicals or screenshots or anything like that. What we want to do is kind of break these up, and then we're going to have smaller segments of trainings later about Kendyl said this. This is what she would do, whatever. Here's how you do it in SAM.
So it'd be WWKD. Is that what we're
Exactly.
talking about? Okay. All right.
Exactly.
All right. Right on. Right on. I want to see the bracelet later.
Well, we'll certainly do that. Now, as far as additional context, one of the things that I have taught for several years now is the whole idea of what I call the core strategies. There's 4 elements to the core strategies, and that's CORE: conversions. That's everything you do for, lead generation until you get a signed agreement. Operations, which is everything from the time you get that signed agreement all the way to closing day. And there's, listing, there's marketing, there's closing transaction stuff. There's a lot to operations. And then R for retention, that is post-closing, all the things that we do after the close, and hopefully bringing them back around to conversion again in a few years or through referrals and whatnot. And then E is kind of a special one, where it is the experience that you give your customers all through that. So CORE, the core strategies. The thing that I have really tried to also concentrate on is making sure that you balance those in a way where you're not spending all your time in lead generation in the conversion side and you're letting your operations fail, or you're not spending all your time in your operations and your conversions fail. You got to balance them out and keep it in, that way you're not having to deal with feast or famine like most real estate agents do. They'll spend all their time in one area forgetting about the other, and then they're in a hard situation later. Can you contest that? Is that accurate?
Nope, that's totally accurate. And I would say that most real estate agents just focus on one thing and they let everything else go to shit.
Yeah.
Oh, should I not say bad words? Sorry.
That's okay. We're
gonna
not
happen.
We're not syndicated.
It's me. Yeah.
Deal with it. So in that light, we're going to kind of cover. Now, I've given you a bunch of questions.
You did too many.
Too many. And what we're going to do is just kind of go through like CORE, maybe hit one or two of them in each section. But I really want to get deep, if you don't mind, on some of the things. So, if you were looking back on your time as being a new agent, and all the way
so many decades ago,
all the way to being a seasoned agent, what's some of the unconventional systems or processes that you might have set up day one that you wished you would have set up on day one that maybe would have helped you?
You know, I had a real challenge with the word unconventional. Okay. And the reason I had a challenge with that is that many people will interpret that word incorrectly to gimmick, flashy, uh, you know, an instant pill of some sort. Okay. So my challenge with unconventional is that most of the stuff that's thought of as unconventional is it might get you one deal, but it's not going to build you a business, my opinion. Yeah.
That's for sure.
So, right. So when I read that question, what leapt to mind for me was actually the very first thing that I did. Now, granted, this was back in the days of not quite mimeograph, but pretty close to it. And I did a neighborhood newsletter. So one of the things that you may or may not have heard from your mentors, your coaches, what have you, is the idea of specializing in something as opposed to serving everybody. Yeah. So what I did as a brand new agent is I selected a neighborhood. I decided to specialize in that neighborhood, and I did a monthly newsletter that was specific for the people who owned homes in that neighborhood. Yeah. Now, this is a really old fashioned idea, and it's so old fashioned that nobody else is doing it, y'all. So, this is, I would like you to think about it. Now, you're going to want to do an email newsletter. And that's what I did like for a long time in this new age. But I tell you, analog is coming back into style. So I would like to put into your little thought bucket the idea of doing an analog, like printed on paper, y'all, like analog newsletter for your specific niche. It could be a neighborhood, but it also could be like a special interest group. Like, are your kids on a soccer team? And you are there every single week sitting on those uncomfortable chairs with all the other soccer moms and dads. Maybe you could create a real estate newsletter for soccer moms and dads. I don't know what the deal is, y'all, but having something like that is consistent, that's so important. Consistent. Don't do it once, not get a listing or a buyer and then decide it doesn't work. It's got to be consistent, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
Set yourself up as somebody who knows more about their real estate needs and interests than anybody else, right?
Mm-hmm.
And make it quality, right? Don't like scribble something on a piece of notebook paper and then send it through your copy machine. Like, make it quality. So that's something that I would do if I were a new agent, is to really think about the niche and the expertise, and to broadcast or advertise or market that niche expertise with a newsletter.
Yeah. So one of the things that Cody and I did, what's it been, a year ago? We wrote what we call our best workflow secrets. And that was part of it, is just making sure that you have some sort of niche. And it doesn't mean you have to have one, but the challenge I see in a lot of real estate agents is they try to get everybody, and that just alienates people in a way. It Because what's going to happen is you're going to find somebody that they don't remember you because you're so generic that there's going to be somebody else's sign in their yard besides yours.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that happens a lot. And it's just because they don't think about it. And if you have some sort of niche, I mean, the soccer moms or whatever, that you're constantly hitting them with, I shouldn't say hitting, you're constantly providing them with good content. You're giving them something that they remember. They remember you, they remember the situation. Whenever it's time for them to buy or sell a home, somebody comes up to them, they decide to talk to you about, they're thinking about buying a home or something. It's like, oh, I know this person. This is the person you need to see. And then that gets the referrals. Yes? No?
Absolutely. And I'm going to take you one step further. Whatever your niche is, think of it as something pretty small, right? So an ideal number is probably only 300 to 500 people. Yeah. So we're not talking an entire city, which I live in Los Angeles, so that'd be several million. That's already so it's easier for me to think about neighborhoods, right? But you may be thinking, okay, well, I'm going to specialize in my city, which only has, let's just say it's a very small city and it's only got 20,000 people. Yeah, that's too big. You cannot be known by 20,000 people. Well, that's not true. You can be, but it's hard to build a relationship business with 20,000 people, right? So 300 to 500 in your neighborhood, 300 to 500 in your kid's school, 300 to 500 in a particular vertical like divorce attorneys or probate guys or there's a lot of different niches here. It doesn't have to be geographic. 300 to 500 of the most expensive homes in your city, 300 to 500 of the apartment buildings that are filled with young professionals that are obviously trying to figure out how to buy their first house. There's so many ways you can slice this, but specialize.
Absolutely. In this area, I mean, we've got a lot of retirees, just getting that they're needing to move to, out of this big house, whatever it is, and how do you help them through that process? Because especially with prices of homes, interest rates, all that kind of stuff, there's a lot of specialization that you can be doing.
There's a freaking designation for that. It's called SERS, Senior Real Estate Specialist. I had it for a while. Anyway, so specialize.
Yeah. Um, but especially in this area, just moving out, a lot of older people and specializing in that. There's a number of now what we have recommended is, I mean, you can get into our software and say, give us a list of niches that might be interesting. We've got a whole list of them that you can go through, but definitely figure out in your area that smaller number and figure out how you can provide your services. And it really kind of comes down to what they call the reticular activator. It's an old word that I learned from Joe Stump a long time ago. So if you've got a red Corvette, you just bought a brand new cherry red Corvette, and then you start driving around, all of a sudden you start seeing other red Corvettes. And if you're out there and you're niching on something, whatever that is, they're going to remember you because that reticular activator. It's the same thing, exact same thing. So, any other thoughts on that one?
I think we've given them something to think about.
Yeah.
One other thing you just want to give some thought to is are there enough transactions in that small group? Yeah, you may want to specialize in the 500 most expensive homes in your city, but if expensive homes don't sell very often in your city, might be a very good place to specialize, right? You may need to have a larger sample, but it gets tougher. The larger it is, the tougher it is. Yeah. So think about those things as you select your niche and try to find one that you are personally really fired up by, right? So again, I'm going to go after the most expensive homes because everybody thinks, oh, that's what I want to do. I want to be a millionaire agent. I've met most of those people. So some of them are my friends. But you want to look at that and you're like, yeah, that's what I want because I want the big bucks. Are you personally fired up by the people or those homes? Do you have a personal connection with that particular niche? Right? Or like my very, very first niche was the neighborhood I lived in. I loved this neighborhood. I loved the architecture. I loved the people in it. I loved the location. I loved everything it was connected to. Like I was really fired up about that neighborhood. Happened to be a starter home neighborhood, and there was a lot of turnover. So it suited me perfectly. So think about those things as well.
Very good. Very good. Okay. Let's go to another question in the operations area. So
Sure.
we'll go from the conversions into operations. So as someone who's owned a brokerage, you've done quite well there. What repeatable blueprint do you recommend new agents to create or use so that they can consistently deliver an exceptional
Okay.
journey? I mean, to
So
me,
new agents,
we call it the world-class service,
right.
but what is it something that you would do?
So new agents are so focused on getting their first piece of business. And then once they get that first piece of business, they're so focused on close escrow, get a paycheck, that they're in a constant state of high alarm, and they're frantic. Um, some of them cover it up, but honestly, people always know. Yeah. So for your very first transaction, I hope you have a mentor by your side. It could be your office manager, it could be a senior agent that's in your office. Hopefully, they will guide you because they love the concept of giving back. But if they don't, offer them a slice of the pie. But you need somebody in your corner to help you through the first transaction for sure, but maybe a couple of transactions so that you could. And when you go through those first transactions, I hope you're taking a lot of notes. And don't just take notes on what you've got to do legally, take notes on the things that seem important to the client you're serving, okay, that give them peace of mind. Because at the end of the day, your reputation is going to be made on the peace of mind that your client feels after the close of escrow. During close of escrow, they are in as much of adrenaline rush as you are during escrow. Yeah. They are like on high anxiety. They are so focused on that they can't see what you're doing right or wrong. But after close of escrow, maybe a week or so after, trust me, they're going to be thinking about it. Yeah. So take really good notes. So I've got some real gems for you on ways that you can create a memorable experience. But before I launch into those, I have a book recommendation that I wished I had had earlier in my career. I didn't get this until later in my career. And that is Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guadera. He is an amazing human being, and his story is basically he was in the restaurant business, and he got an opportunity to run a historic restaurant in New York called 11 Madison, I think is the name of the thing. And he wanted to figure out how to earn a Michelin star really fast, right? And what he came up with is the idea that people are coming to this restaurant for a once in a lifetime experience. Not the rich folks, but many people are coming to this restaurant and they're only going to be able to come maybe once. Maybe they traveled to New York on a dream vacation. Maybe they saved up their money for this one really special meal, but it was a big deal for the customer. Does that sound like buying a house or selling a house? Yeah, it's a really, really big deal. A lot of emotions that are invested in buying or selling a house, just like this really special restaurant experience. And so he set out to not only find ways to make the experience extremely special, but he wanted to find ways to make this operationally something that could be done over and over and over and over again, so that there would be room and bandwidth to do things that were unique for that special customer. So two concepts: things that are coded into their operation manuals that they do over and over and over again, and the expectation that they're looking for opportunities to do something that's unique for that situation and that customer. This book will, if it doesn't change your life, you're either amazing already or you're tone deaf. Could go either way. Yeah. But it changed my life. So here are some of the things that I coded into my real estate transaction that come directly from that book. So as you go through, let's just say, let's see, let's start with buyers. Yeah. Okay. You've got a brand new buyer and they got their contract accepted on their very first house. This is a big deal. The first really big thing that they do is the home inspection. Yeah. It's a very, very big moment because they're scared out of their minds. They're worried that they are in escrow on a money pit. They're worried that they're not going to be able to afford if that home inspector finds even one little thing, they're not sure that they're going to be able to buy this house. But at the same time, their dreams and their hopes are at high alert. They're thinking about, where are we going to put the furniture? Where is grandma's tea set going to sit? I mean, like it's all the things, yeah, all the things. So one of the things that we did that's repeatable is we had a home inspection kit, came in a little box. And inside, and on the outside of the box, it just said, "We got your back." Yeah. And inside the box was water, snacks, a blank notebook, a pen, and a little thing that I designed on Canva, love Canva, that was just stuff to pay attention to, right? Oh, and a measuring tape. There was a measuring tape in there. Okay. So they could take measurements for appliances and furniture and window coverings and whatever. So those were all in the box. And then on the things to pay attention to, it's like the location of the water shutoff valve. Yeah. Um, I can't remember what was on that thing. It's been so long since I've seen it. But you know what? And it's going to be different for your region. Like it's the stuff that is really important for buyers to pay attention to in your area. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it freezes in your area. Like, I don't know what that is, but I've heard it's a big thing in other places. So maybe it's where you weatherize your pipes outside. Yeah. In California, water seepage is a big deal because we don't have water. So when it seeps in, it can create a lot of problems for us. So paying attention to the crawl space is their efflorescence, which is signs of water seepage, right? So just whatever in your area that's super important to pay attention to, that was on my list of things for the buyers to just pay attention. Is a good home inspector going to point those stuff out? Yes. You know, did you select a good home inspector for your buyer? I sure as heck hope so, right? It's not for that. It's to give your buyers the peace of mind that you are looking out for them and you are helping them to make sure that they don't miss on some important piece of information. And it's to give them the peace of mind that you've thought about it ahead of time. Yeah. Prediction equals trust. If you can predict what the buyer is going to need to know, they're going to trust you more. Right. So that's a good one for the buyers. This next one is for, well, actually, no, this is also for the buyers. I love this one. So someday, I don't know when, it's going to become a buyer's market again. Yeah. But
Yeah.
right now, it's a seller's market, and it's been a seller's market for the last 10 years. And I think it's going to be a seller's market for a while longer. Yeah. So the buyer's coming in, and you're not even sure if you're going to get any credits from the sellers, even if you do find something wrong. Right. But this little trick will give you a better chance of it than if you don't do it. Okay. So, home inspection day is actually a really stressful day for the sellers. You think it isn't, but it is. So, because you are coming in with a phalanx of professionals to put their home under a microscope,
Exactly.
right? And even if they have no intention of fixing a gosh darn thing, their pride is at stake. This is their home and you're tearing it apart. Plus, this is their family's sacred space and you're invading it. You're strangers. You're strangers with not great intent invading their secret space. Y'all, this does not feel good as a seller. So I have coded into my operations manual 3 days before the home inspection, a text message goes to my operations manager, which is my husband. Thank you, husband. And it
Way to go,
reminds him,
Stan.
yeah, Stan, it reminds him to pick up an orchid from Trader Joe's. $14 orchid. Yeah, it's just a little thing. You do you. It could be anything. It really doesn't matter. The idea is that you're bringing a gift. So we would bring the gift, and then a text message also went out to the agent representing the buyer to write a thank you note to the seller. Handwritten, that's key, a handwritten thank you note to the seller. And the text of it, which was right in my text message to, so the agent wouldn't remember, wouldn't forget, is thank you so much for allowing us to come to your home today. We really appreciate it, and we wish you well. And so they leave the orchid and the note for the seller, so that it was greeting the seller when they come home from the home inspection. Doesn't work if it's a vacant house, but if it's an occupied house, right? Really, really nice emotional touch.
Yeah,
And it helps the seller to go from, I hate you for going into my house and putting a microscope, to, wow, that was really thoughtful. Thank you. Yeah. From
I love
DEFCON
that.
6 down to DEFCON 2. Yeah. So love that for buyers. Here's one of my little touches for when you represent the seller. The first big stress point, the first big milestone for the seller isn't the home inspection. The first big milestone for the seller is picture day. Okay? Because think about it. Up until picture day, it has all been on the seller's shoulders, right? To get everything fixed up, to get it clean, to get it staged, to get it tidied, to get it like all of that stuff. That is a lot of hard work, also a lot of emotion, right?
Right.
Picture day is the day when the seller takes the baton and hands it to the listing agent and says, all yours, bae, do what you want with it. Yeah? Okay, it's your responsibility now. I did my thing, now it's your responsibility. We have coded into our operations manager. Again, there's a few steps to it, but the first step is we got to order the stuff. Yeah. So text message goes to Simone, because this is stuff that is ordered online. So text message goes to Simone, order the picture day kit, which for us was 2 mugs, 2 shortbread cookies, chamomile tea,
Okay.
right? Chamomile tea, right? And it also goes into a little box that also says we got your back, because I like it's like a restaurant, have the ingredients used in many different ways. Yeah. So that would go into the picture day box. And so when we would go to meet the photographer, we would leave that little thing on there, and the handwritten note. Again, really big deal on handwritten notes. Love them. It'd be like, you have done incredible work. The pictures have now been taken. You can sit back and relax. We've got it from here.
Very good. The things that make that wow, so many times agents are just going from transaction to transaction. They want that check at the end of the day, and they just don't think about these little things. And something that you talked about early on in our knowing each other, you were talking about thinking about the things that they ask you. If they ask you for it,
Yeah.
you're late. You should have
Yeah.
thought about that, or for the next person, make sure that you cover it beforehand. So this is the same thing. You're covering them. You're telling them that you've got their back, but you're sharing something with them, easing their mind.
Well,
At the
more
same
than anything
time.
else, I'm demonstrating that I understand how they feel.
Mhm.
Prediction equals trust. Yeah. And I'll share one little other anecdote where what you just said, where that came from. When I was a baby agent, I remember I would observe the agents around me, their phones were always ringing. Always ringing. And they were always complaining about how their clients called them, at all hours of the night and blah, 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 blah. And I used to think, what's wrong with me? My phone doesn't ring. Nobody calls me at night. I, I must not have enough business. I mean, I'm just a horrible failed real estate agent, until I realized why their phones were ringing. Their phones were ringing because their people were freaked out. Their people were freaked out because the agent hadn't told them in advance that X, Y, and Z were going to happen, and that here's what we're going to do if X happens, and here's what we're going to do when Y happens. I did that naturally because I'm very fearful of being criticized, and I'm very, very fearful of dropping the ball. Like, my life is is oriented around the idea that, left to my own devices, without my tools and without my craziness, um, all the balls would fall through the cracks. Everybody would hate me, and there's nothing that I want more in life than for people who like me. Yeah, like, I'm slavishly addicted to being liked. So that's
I
where it
like,
came from.
yeah, I liken that to, and it's an old thing. Again, I think this came from Joe Stump, or some of the other coaches out there. Is they call it the rough seas letter or the turbulence letter,
All
where
of them.
it's a list of 100 things that's going to go wrong during the transaction.
Mm,
Here's all the
mm,
different things that could go wrong.
that's just, sorry, I not to criticize the person who maybe came up with that, but that's just an ego play, in
I
my
know, I
opinion.
know, I don't disagree with that, but the fact is, there are systems for each one of those. If something happens, I've got your back. And I don't
Yeah.
disagree with you on that. But
Yeah, I don't believe in unnecessarily freaking out the client in as a way of saying, you need me, I'm so amazing, because all these bad things will happen if I'm not there. I'm more about, and again, workflow secrets is the perfect tool to allow you to handle this. I'm more about handling things when they need to be handled, just before they need
just
to be handled. Yeah.
just in time.
Yeah. I'm way more in that. In Joe Stump's day, I remember that guy from a million years ago. We didn't have those tools, right? And I handled it with a lot of adrenaline, and reams of checklists. I had binders of checklists. It was thick, but I'm not normal. But yes, that is, and if you do this well, then not only will you have a calmer lifestyle, your clients will have a calmer lifestyle. They're more likely to refer you, to, which is what I want more than the close of escrow. I want the referral. I want
Absolutely.
the recommendation. That's
And
really what I want.
if you've given them that wow, that that tips them over into that. I mean, that's what you really need each and every time. And if you've got the restaurant, and I'm certainly going to read that. I've not read that book, but
Awesome.
you go through and you think about everything from the eyes of the customer, and how can I make it better for them? How can I prevent them from having to call me in the first place? If they do call me, I'm late. I should have announced it ahead of time. Going through that whole plan, getting that plan in your business, is what's critical. Now, one thing that, and unrelated to what, well, actually, it is related to this, is, in the past we've talked about workflows, all these big, humongous plans of things, and part of workflow secrets is saying, well, instead of working the entire big plan, let's break it down into smaller routines. What is one routine that I would do if I've got to do my photography? And you just concentrate on that one small piece. And each time the photography date's entered, then it goes and it does that one small piece. And if the staging date is entered, then it does that one small piece. You don't have to have the entire plan defined, but how do you handle that one small piece? And that's the secret, is really breaking it down into smaller routines. All of us have routines. Every morning we get up, we put our feet on the floor, we go brush our teeth, we drink, make coffee, we drink coffee. We go through this thing and we don't even think about it many times. And that's what we have revamped a lot of that. And we're using a lot of AI, we're using a lot of capabilities that is there, to help automate the process, but we're doing it in smaller chunks. So we'll
I'd
cover
like,
that later.
okay. Well, I do want to add to that, this one little chunk, the photography, right? the thing about what we do is so much of it is either in reaction to something or because somebody told us to do it, or we just did it, right? Thoughtlessly. And one of the challenges with writing a routine is we don't actually pay attention the first time we did it to what all the little steps, we take them for granted. Yeah. So when you do pay attention to that one little thing, Mark's example, the photography, pay attention to the stuff that you don't think matters because it does.
Yeah. On that note, okay, so photography is one, staging is one. What are some other things that, if you were to just break it down, you've made up small plans or sections of your bigger workflow. What are some of the key ones that you've done in addition to those two? I didn't
Key
have this
ones,
on the list.
dude, those are all key. Um, Key routines. Well, the question you asked was, what are things that fell through the cracks before you had routines that didn't fall through the cracks after you had those in place? I had an answer for that one.
Okay.
The answer to that one was termite reports. So this may be somewhat regional, but in California, well, back in the old days, it's not this way anymore. In the old days, you would get your home inspected for termites, and then there would be two types of work that were required: stuff that had to get done in order to be declared free of termites, and stuff that you needed to improve to prevent termites from coming in. Yeah. And section 1 was the first part. That was like in the old days, it was mandatory, it had to get done. Yeah. But there would be a in-between thing that was called further inspection recommended. So it's neither 1 nor 2. It's like, we need to look at it some more. I was habitually not scheduling or paying attention to that further inspection because I wasn't going through it. It's like I'd read it, I'd go, oh, we might have to do that, and then I'd forget about it.
Right.
Oh yeah. So putting a reminder in there, this like operational, this had to get scheduled the minute you wrote it. It changed everything. And then yeah.
Did you customarily on something like that, or should you have customarily just said, okay, 2 days after the
Yeah.
inspection or whatever that number
Right.
is? I don't know what that number is.
It wasn't urgent. When I would get the termite report, that particular action wasn't urgent. And it might never have been urgent. That was the key. Like, it was situational. Maybe somebody will ask for it, maybe somebody won't. And so I'd completely forget about it. Now, what do I know about the other agent? They're probably not on top of the ball either. Yeah.
Mhm.
So what was happening is we get to the end of escrow, both of us are scrambling. Yeah. So a large part of what my operational manual, what my workflows grew into was compensating for an agent on the other side who may not be very experienced, may not have a lot of resources, might be a part-time agent, whatever. But my workflows were actually written to compensate for the other agent not getting all of the things done that needed to be done, and treating it in a respectful manner. Like, we would send them letters saying, I'm sure you're already aware that the home inspection is happening then, and all of the utilities need to be home and all the doors need to be accessible. So this is probably an unnecessary reminder, but just thought we'd send it anyway.
Yeah. Showing that respect,
Uh-huh.
hoping that they did it, knowing that
Yeah.
they didn't do it,
Yeah.
but at least giving them the benefit of the doubt and
Yeah.
moving forward.
So I guess that would be an important part of my things that I'd never thought of before, honestly. And it's so useless to get mad at the other agent. They didn't mean to screw things over. They want the commission check just as much as anybody else. They just didn't have the experience or lack of foresight or whatever. Don't get mad, just handle it.
Very good. Okay, so we went through conversions, operations, retention. What's one system a new agent could implement to transform their past clients into active referral?
Ooh, you guys are not going to want to do this, but it is like singularly one of the most important things that I've ever done. And it's really uncomfortable. That is a yearly review. Okay. So I learned this actually with Ninja Selling with Larry Kendyl. And the reason you're not going to want to do this, so here's what you do. On the anniversary of their home purchase, you basically call them up and say, I'd love to meet you for tea, coffee, lunch, whatever. I'd love to hear about what you've done to the house in the last year. And and I give you just a review of your real estate holdings because I think everybody should be informed about their real estate values. And the reason you're not going to want to do that is to you, it feels like you're trying to get them to buy or sell. Yeah. Right. That is not how your client feels, but that's how you feel. Yeah. So you've got to find a way to do this that is comfortable, suit your personality, suit your brand, right? What I settled on, and I think it worked a lot better, is reaching out on the year, say happy house anniversary. Because I'm a terrible friend, I'm just not very good at being like social with my past clients. It's like, I don't have time for that. So pretty much on their anniversary is probably the first time they've heard from me in a year. Many of you are way better than I am at that. God love you. So glad it's not me. I'm not good at that. So that's probably the first time they've heard from me the entire year. Happy house anniversary. Just wanted to catch up with you. By the way, do you want an update on the value of your house? And they either say yes or no. And I'm like, well, that's cool, whatever. I just wanted to talk to you. So that's what worked for me. But that discipline of reaching out, once a year, I'm going to put it in terms that any Los Angelean can understand right now, because insurance is something that is so arrow through the heart. Yeah. Would you like it if your insurance agent reached out to you every year to just kind of review your insurance and make sure that you're comfortable with the coverage you have?
We'll see if they don't cancel your insurance, but yes.
So many things, right? So many. There are just countless sob stories happening right now in Los Angeles of people who are underinsured or don't have the insurance at all, right? And if their insurance agent had reached out to them, what that client might have very well said is, I'm sorry, but I can't afford the level of insurance that you are recommending. Cool beans, but at least that was a choice they got to make.
Exactly.
Yeah. How many people right now are going, I didn't know I was so ridiculously underinsured. I wish somebody had told me. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's a very front and center thing. We don't understand that as real estate professionals, we're exactly the same. Would people like to know what their equity is worth? Would they like some guidance on how they could leverage that equity if they wanted to buy an investment property, to finance college education, to retire more comfortably, to build an ADU, to have a second source of income? Would they like that? Would they need that? Some of them, yes. Everyone, no. But would they like to be the one who says, yes, I want that, or no, I don't?
At least give them the opportunity.
Exactly. So if you want, so what we learned in ninja training is that, and this is very true in California, there are more real estate licenses than driver's licenses. Every person that you know is either related to, friends of, or in connection with a dozen real estate agents. Why the frack should they use you? Yeah. 2 reasons. Because you've demonstrated that you have the expertise, and because you are in the flow of their life. Yeah? Yes. You're in the flow. What does that mean? That they think of you not just because they need to buy or sell a house, but because they think of you because you're around. So
Yeah,
there
absolutely.
you go. Little ninja training for you.
Very good. Very good. Okay. I want to go ahead and go down to experiences. Did you do any kind of like, well, the onboarding of a client, and when most agents, think about the transaction and stuff, how do you create a memorable onboarding experience for that client?
Are you asking me, did we do an onboarding?
Did you, and if so, what did you
First
do?
of all, I really hate that vocabulary term. It's a corporate term, and I don't do corporate. So that vocab gives me heebie-jeebies. That and low-hanging fruit and iterate. Um,
You
so
questioned me one time on scaling as well, but
yeah, what the heck is skin? No, it was Dale that I gave a hard time on that one. I didn't know what that meant. I couldn't grasp it. And I'm not a dumb bunny, but I couldn't grasp it because I've never been in the corporate world. So anyway, my analogous to onboarding is just creating that relationship, that professional relationship. And part of it is setting down the ground rules so they understand what to expect from us. Yeah. And the other part of it is giving them the resources so that whatever part of the transaction they're in, selling or buying, they had the information and the professionals right from the get-go. Yeah. So for buyers, as an example, part of their beginning with us is setting them up with the lender, setting them up with the right insurance people, going through the purchase contract with them, even though they haven't even started looking for houses yet, right? Getting them to understand what they're going to experience in the transaction, right? How the inspection is going to help them from making a really horrible mistake, how we help them to understand the value of the house, and then how we help them to understand that that's not going to matter because they're going to have to pay more than that anyway, right? And
right,
letting them to understand that they can choose to not do that, pay above the comparables. That's their choice, but that means they're probably not going to buy a house, and that's their choice too. That's okay, right? We'll not work with them, but we want them to understand what their choices are. So we go through all of that in a first meeting. It takes like an hour, and they're only going to hear about 10% of it, which is cool. And then we follow that up with a series of timed educational emails, reminding them, you do need to do this, and this is what you're going to be hearing, and all of that stuff. So I guess that's what the onboarding is,
yeah.
that process.
For us, I mean, if we were to take a look at that and take a look at your system of that process, the checklists and things that you might want to, make sure they have ahead of time. What are the things that you communicate over time as they're going through the process? Those are all onboarding type
Yeah.
of
I mean,
things.
I loved our packets that we would give them. Again, analog is just, it's taken on such a special meaning now that everything is digital, right? So we would give them a physical folder, and it would have in there, you know, flowcharts and resources and, what ifs and FAQs and just fun things like that. That was part of our, I guess, onboarding. Still don't like the vocab term.
Yeah, well, whatever you want to call it, it's a matter of making it feel good. They can bring it to their home. They can sit back, sip some
Yeah.
coffee, look at it,
Yep.
in a comfortable chair and not worry about, having to bring it up on their computer or whatever.
Now, I mean, a lot of people watching this are going to be new agents without the financial wherewithal to create a beautiful analog, folder. And that's okay. You don't have to start there, but your mind should be thinking about this. Your mind should be thinking, okay, if I were buying my first house, or when I bought my first house, this is what created angina. This is what created my stomach to turn. This is what I don't want my clients to go through.
Exactly. Thinking about, um, putting yourself in their shoes. walking that same mile and figuring out how can I make that mile memorable and in a good way, not in a bad
Now,
way.
now, if you haven't purchased your first house and you haven't sold your first house, you are going to have to get together with a mentor who has.
Yep.
And they're going to think you're crazy, by the way, because they haven't thought of this, they haven't done it, but you're coming from an education. It's like, so, what makes a buyer really nervous? They have the answer. They just never thought about it.
Yeah. But that is something now. I know you're not an AI person, but within SAM, you could go in there and say, what are questions that buyers have? What are challenges that buyers have? And then it could spill that out, and then you can build systems around that. So
Interestingly, AI has changed its answer to that question over time.
it
So
definitely has the ability to drift, and so you definitely
drift, it's improved.
well sometimes
ChatGPT, yeah, 2.0 has gotten, it's just better. And then now I have the pro version. So I do AI. I don't do AI so that my clients can see it. I
yeah.
do it for grins and giggles.
There is so
Giggles.
much that you can do now with the AI, and that's part of what we're doing is making sure that agents have the tools, and certainly they can hop onto ChatGPT and do all kinds of great stuff. But a lot of times it's a matter of repetition and going through and doing things
True.
again and again and again.
Two
And
things,
we're
two, th-
we're
two things.
we're we're,
Go
we're
ahead. Sorry.
breaking that down so you don't have to do that as frequently.
And two things I would add to that, and you may have this in your training, is I would add to your prompt your specific geography where you are, yeah,
Mhm.
your state, your city. And then I would actually run those things by your mentor or your office manager, because AI still doesn't have the social nuances that an experienced agent in your local area will have. So it's just do all of that. Oh my God, I wish I'd had that when I was a new agent, because it's going to cut through. Instead of asking a busy agent, how do I do X? You ask AI, and then you can just go to the busy agent and say, does this look right? And then they can say, well, yeah, you shouldn't do that one because you'll have some haters if you do that.
Absolutely. Well, Kendall, it's been an hour. I really have so many more questions, but we're just going to cut it off here. I I cannot tell you um, just express enough how much I thank you for your friendship, number one,
Anytime.
but also just giving some love out to the people that might be looking at SAM, our software accelerator manager, and the whole idea of using CRM automations, all that kind of stuff within a software application that is there to help you. And you have taken things to the extreme with other projects that I've done, and
Yeah.
really taking what I've designed and thought and planned and put together for agents. You've done it, and I appreciate you for doing that. And I know that's just you, that's just who you are, but
Yeah.
at the same time, you know you are unique in your own ways, and I love your art, by the way. Very good. Since retirement, everybody she has dove into a lot of watercolor painting of
Watercolor, starting to get into block printing, and Shashiko embroidery was yesterday's thing, whatever. I'm just having fun with age appropriate activities.
well, certainly impressive if people will reach out to you. If they do have any questions, is there
Sure.
a good place
So,
they can
so
reach
the
out?
best email right now is my name, Kendyl at kendylyoung.com. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, I'm most active on my art channel, which is Kendyl Young Art. That's my handle. And I mean, you can find me at Kendyl Young. That's my real estate channel. And sometimes I remember to go there, but not very often.
Yeah. Well, um, Cody, you've been pretty silent over there. I know you've been absorbing things. Is there anything that you want to share? I know I've kind of dominated this, but
You know, I kind of wanted to take the seat of the student for this one. This was a really excellent conversation, Kendall. I really appreciate just the value and the thought that you bring into this. I think the work that we share about often is driving those world-class client experiences. And I mean, just in the two examples that you gave, you can really tell that that's present. And I think that if folks that are watching will really latch onto these ideas and really think about how can I deliver a better experience in each one of those opportunities, that maybe there's a fear moment, or maybe there is an opportunity for me to put either side of the transaction at peace. A note that I wrote was, if you deliver peace, they will deliver the referrals because they want their friends and family to have that same peace. And I just think that that is something that's really powerful. It inspires me to think about the different automations that I build into our business and how I can go above and beyond for our people too. But I think that was excellent. I think other than that, you know, maybe Kendyl, if you've got any sage words that you want to send us out with.
I do actually. Everything that I've shared with you are flourishes, if you will, icing on the cake. The actual cake is being an absolute expert in your real estate market and in your real estate transaction. You should be striving in every way possible to know more than anybody else. At least that's my brand. Some of you are just really good salespeople. Some of you are just really good, lead producers or brokering deals together. That kind of wasn't my thing. My thing was literally knowing more than anybody else in the transaction. You do you, boo, but I can't tell you how much collateral damage happens because real estate agents are not expert in their contract, in their transaction, in the financing, in the local rules that need to be, paid attention to. Just be the expert. That's what you get paid for. I think you get paid for to show houses and to see the potential. It's not, dudes. It's to protect your client's interests. And you can only do that if you're the expert.
very good. Very good. Well, Kendyl, thank you again so much. And at this point, I'm going to call this a wrap, and we will see each other later. Hopefully this summer we'll be in your area, and or at least close in your area, that we can swing by and have
Well,
dinner.
my son's up in Oakland, so
Okay.
you let me know, and I'll hightail it on up there.
You'll take care of us. All right. Well, we appreciate that. Everybody, thank you so much for visiting, and we will get a lot of these different tidbits of information and stuff. We're going to break these up into separate sections that can be like smaller trainings on how to implement these in SAM. So in the Software Accelerator Manager, we can do lots of the automation, and that's really what we wanted to make available to you guys. So hope that will be helpful as well. Everybody have a great day. Thank you so much.